Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of the non-live Clear Lower Deck, where I'm going to be taking questions from the community, from Discord, the conversation on YouTube, and from Patreon, when I actually get a Patreon. So, the first person I'm going to be answering is King's Rook, and he asks me, was that you on a recent episode of The Bilge Pumps? So if you don't know what The Bilge Pumps was, or is a podcast where Dr. Alexander Clark, Drakinafel, and Jamie from Armoured Carriers basically talk about stuff. It's all naval related. Some things are new, some things are old, and some things are from, well, World War I, World War II, Cold War, that type of era. So I was talking about anti-ship missiles. Now, the episode was episode 27, so if you want to go have a look at that, there is a link in the description below to it. It's a podcast, you ain't going to see my face, so sorry guys. So, anyway, basically I was talking about anti-ship missiles and talked about a few, what they do, different types, kind of like that. It was very informative and it's all open source. So, there's no secrets being divulged on that one, unfortunately, for all you spies who are trying to work out what we know. I don't really know anything. I'm like Jon Snow. I know nothing. So, sorry. Royal Navy 1234 asks, how possible would it be for the class to be converted into Catbar in all respects possible? The class he's referring to is the Queen Elizabeth class. So, to answer your question, it's pretty possible to actually convert it. It's expensive, but it is possible. Now, there's some things you need to kind of work out before you actually do convert one of these things into Catbar. One, you need to put all the boilers into place, which requires a big dry dock. So that requires the ship to go to Rosyth, and for the side of the ship to actually be ripped open and have a new boiler put into place. Because the compartments are there, it's just, they're an empty space right now. So once you put those into place, you then need to work out where you're going to put the catapults, which the compartments are there. Don't get me wrong, everything on that ship that makes it a Catbar is an allocated space, just in case you want to go, do you know what, we'll make them into a carrier that is capable of having Catbar, so having a rest of gear and catapults. So, what you need to do is, working from forward to aft, you need to, well, where the forward catapult would be, there's basically a flat and loads of stores compartments. So basically, put the catapult in there, close off most of the stores compartments, so the loggies don't have much to play with. Not gonna lie, they got enough room. So that's fine, just stick that in. Then behind it, obviously you have the blast deflector. That will go in perfectly fine. The outboard catapult on the port side, yes, there is technically inside an angled bulkhead which should run along the same lines as that catapult, which is perfectly fine. Stick the catapult along there, do the same thing, add the blast deflector in the rear. The problem you'll look at then is making the angled flight deck. Now, it's just going to be an extension over the normal flight deck, except for you're going to bring it slightly more to the port side of the ship. You're going to lose the phalanx deck, but then you need to make a new sponson just ahead of it. Apart from that, moving a bit further back, you'll need to put in the arrestor gear. So the compartment is there, it's just forward of the jib, you're perfectly fine. It's a massive compartment, slot in perfectly fine. All you need to do right down the aft end is slightly extend the rear end of the ship, rear end of the flight deck, slightly angle it so it obviously matches up with the forward end of the angle flight deck. Apart from that, the lights for that flight deck should be in place, I believe. Yeah, I think they are. So, aside from that, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, she's ready to go. It's just, you need the funding to actually build and retrofit it to actually take them. And then there's the possibility of, buying Catbar capable aircraft that will come in F-18s, Rafales, the F-35C. Yeah, there's quite a lot of aircraft you can actually operate off those, and those are just the strike aircraft. So, it's a good idea. I'm just surprised they shot themselves in the foot and went for the F-35B, but anyhow, I'm not in procurement. The Vegetable Drinker asks, what would have the Tiger class done if they were brought back into service for the Falklands War? Well, a couple of things. One, if you're going to bring a Tiger class at that point back into active service, because they were in reserve at that point, by the time you got it back into service, the war would be over. Now, don't forget, that war was about 6 weeks long. It wasn't that long in retrospective. But it's a weird place where you go, do you know what? To hell with it. Send all the manpower and basically get these ships back into operation as fast as humanly possible. Well, it's a tricky one, because they're a large ship. They got a large flight deck for at least 3 Sea Kings. They got a 6-inch gun, which is an autoloader on the bow. If for some reason the British Royal Navy got them ready to go just as the war started, I could definitely see these going down with one of the task groups. I think possibly the Bristol group. And that way they can provide heavy anti-aircraft cover with the ridiculously rapid fire 40mm Bofor that's in front of the bridge. Amazing, naval gunfire support with a 6-inch autoloader. That would be devastating, because don't get me wrong, the 4.5-inch guns were good, but if you're having auto-loading dual 6-inch shells coming at you, then, well, it's probably not good for morale. Apart from that, because you have 2 of them, they would probably operate in a sort of, I wouldn't say carrier escort, maybe being pushed out into the anti-aircraft support bubble, so maybe doing what the Sheffield, the Coventry, or the 45s, and then the Type 46, kind of what those were doing, and just basically being an early warning detection ship and shooting down aircraft. Now, it'd be good. They don't actually have any surface-to-air missile systems that can really be wrote home about. They have Seacat, but not gonna lie, if you throw a rock at a jet, it'll probably do more damage. 40mm will probably be the best weapon system against one of those jets, especially the Skyhawks, because the way they came in, you could probably get that 40mm straight on target, and, well, in an ideal world, the jet would go down. But let's go 50-50. They're also armoured. And I'm pretty sure if the Skyhawks dropped the bomb on that thing like they did on the Coventry, she would survive, which is probably a good thing. Like, don't get me wrong, by the time they get back home, they'll probably be decommissioned and, well, sent for the scrapyard. But even still, I think they would be really, really good anti-aircraft pickets. And, well, they would take a lot of bombs just to, sink them, and they probably might be one of those big, massive targets that the Argentine Air Force goes, we're going to take that out because that's doing a lot of damage to us. Once we kill that, we have probably a better line at the carrier task group. So, Coventry might be around, Sheffield might be around, but then that kind of plays into the fact that if those 2 don't go down because of the bombs and the missiles, then there's the possibility that the Royal Navy doesn't realise that maybe not having phalanx, not a bad idea. Surface-to-air missile systems will probably be fine at shooting down an aircraft that's getting in close. And then maybe, say for instance, when the First Gulf War happens, and you've got Gloucester, she's escorting the Missouri, I believe, from what I remember, and then the Silkworm missile gets fired at it. They've still got Sea Dart, I know. Sea Dart does shoot down Silkworm, but what if the missile does miss and then Gloucester takes a silkworm straight into the side of the ship? They don't actually have any close-in weapon systems to shoot that missile down. So you kind of had to think about the longer-term aspects of what these ships could have brought to the table. So that's kind of my answer, to be honest. Might be good in the short term, but there might be knock-on effects later on down the line. Calagdable asks, what could have possibly happened if Bismarck sailed with Tirpitz, Scharnhorst, Gneisenau, Prince Eugen, and two of the Deutschland class if they weren't in sea trials and repairs? Well, okay, this is a bit of a question. So I'm guessing you mean Operation Rheinenbogen, which is technically the real operation that Bismarck and Prince Eugen went on, where they sank the Hood. So, right. Looking at it, the Germans are putting into play two 40,000-ton battleships armed with 15-inch guns. Overall, each ship's armed got 8 barrels, 15-inch guns, plus some small caliber guns. Not really much for a engagement with battleships. So overall, you're looking at 16 15-inch guns. The two Scharnhorsts, so Scharnhorst and Gneisenau, they're bringing 9 11-inch guns each, so that's 18 overall. That's better than the Deutschland class, because, not gonna lie, they're bringing 6 each into triple turrets, and, well, they can kind of be classed as a heavy cruiser. Prince Eugen, 8-inch guns in 4 turrets with 8 barrels. So that's a pretty decent convoy hunting group. However, I'm pretty sure the Royal Navy is going to probably see these ships and go, what the hell is going on? Because if you think about it, Scharnhorst and Gneisenau would sail from Brest. Bismarck, Tirpitz and Prince Eugen would sail from Wilhelmshaven. So, you're looking at technically 4 capital units sailing in 2 places, all destined for the North Atlantic. So, the problem you're going to look at is, you've got 2 ships to the south, southwest, and 2 ships on your east side if you're Britain. Now, Scharnhorst and Gneisenau, they're not great, but they're pretty decent ships, but the armament is kind of small, and the way that the doctrine of the German, the Kriegsmarine was, that those 2 ships should not engage any British battleships, and they have to decline action. Look at it, that flipping Renown basically drove out those 2 things, and they kind of, declined action and ran away. So, I'm thinking what they probably would have done is bring Force H up from Gibraltar. So that's got Renown, the Ark Royal, a couple of heavy cruisers. Tovey, who's currently the commander of the Home Fleet, will more likely deploy his warships. And thanks to the Spitfire, detecting the 2 ships in that Norwegian fjord, they will know where they are. Ultimately, they'll go through the thing of, are they going through the Denmark Strait? Are they going between the Iceland-Faroe Gap? Or are they going through the English Channel? Now, basing the fact that they're in Norway, getting refueled, they'll just cross off the English Channel one because, hey, it's a suicide run. Not looking at the Channel Dash or anything, but yeah. So, those are the 2 options that those 3 ships would actually have. Maybe if you bring along the Deutschland class, I don't know. So, the way you're going to look at it is, got KG-5, Prince of Wales, Hood, multiple heavy cruisers. Rodney's currently escorting a convoy back home. Back to, by this point, actually no, she's going back over to America because she's going to have an engine refit. But as we know, she does come back and basically pushes the turbines to their limits and, joins up. So, I am thinking you're probably going to bring Rodney, as she's on her last legs, up to the battle fleet to maybe take on the 3 German German battleships and the cruiser. I'm going to say send in Renown to take out or scare away the Scharnhorst and Gneisenau, and they, go back to Brest. So then you just got pretty much 4 battleships, 3 battleships and a battle cruiser, plus the carrier Victorious versus 2 German battleships and, I want to say 2, maybe 3 heavy cruisers, plus God knows what else the Royal Navy's going to bring in. Multiple cruisers, a couple of heavy cruisers, loads of destroyers. It's just going to be a bad day. I don't think those 3 ships are getting out of the North Sea, or even to the Denmark Strait. If they have Casalinas flying over to try and find them, you've got God knows what else. You're probably sending a couple of submarines to, blockade the Denmark Strait, just in case they go up there. If they do, and they, surprisingly get through the battleship screen and, the home fleet, you could always just kill them with swarms and swarms of torpedoes. You never know. You might actually get it lucky and hit the rudder of maybe Bismarck as she's midway through the Denmark Strait, and her turning circle basically makes her run aground into Iceland. You never know. So it's one of those things to think about. I personally think it will be a battle to the death for all those ships. Ships will die, ships will sink, and will it change the battle? Well, change the course of the war? No. Hitler might start shouting 999 and basically scrap the entire surface fleet because, he's just lost 2 of his big battleships and he's probably gonna be annoyed. To be honest, you're probably looking at the end of the Kriegsmarine there. What else can they, bring to play? You can't use the Scharnhorst and Gneisenau to engage anything that the British have got because, they're undergunned but surprisingly armoured. The Königsbergs don't work in anything more than a flat calm or the Baltic. The Deutschland class are as useful as a chocolate fireguard. I think probably a bad idea for the German Kriegsmarine. Might as well just use a bunch of U-boats. That's what I think about that one. Whiskey 2 Shots asks, can you describe what your ideal warship would be for the World War II era? So, as a kid, I grew up with the idea of the Royal Navy, World War II, World War I, battlecruisers, battleships, cruisers, big guns do a lot of damage, big guns are cool, that type of thing. And, to be honest, I still like the idea of big guns go boom, that type of thing. But if I was going to go for an ideal World War II warship, I'm probably going to use something that you can probably see right now, which is an Alaska class. Now, the Alaska class were technically super cruisers. Some might say they're battle cruisers, which, to be honest, they flipping are. America, stop saying they're not. But, oh well. So, my ideal idea is having an Alaska class, but lengthened to the size, maybe that of an Iowa class. But the idea of having the lengthened ship is have the additional 12-inch triple turret. That way, it's more of a balanced look. I like balanced. It's weird. I like the idea of having 2 gun turrets up forward and 2 gun turrets up aft. Kind of makes it look very well proportioned and, it just looks good. So, I'd have something that looks a bit like an Alaska class. Having your 12-inch guns, because they're pretty decent. Making them 50 calibers, so they're high velocity. Although, the only thing I would change is ditching the entire superstructure and putting a British Queen's Anne's mansion on top. Because I'm British, and I like British things. Granted, you're going for a Alaska hull with a British superstructure. At least that way you can, keep everything compact whilst having a lot of room for more anti-aircraft guns or heavy caliber anti-aircraft guns. Because, well, if you can shoot down aircraft quite far away, it's pretty good. If you have the guns to shoot at shore targets or enemy ships, that's really good. So, encompass largish caliber guns with the speed of an Alaska, as well as the anti-aircraft suite of the Alaska class. Pretty much having a British Alaska class, or a Super Alaska, that, well, kind of borders on the fact that, is it a battleship? Is it a heavy cruiser? I don't know. So that's kind of my idea. Just a supersized Alaska on some weirdness. That's pretty much my idea of the ideal warship for World War II. You've got the close-in range, secondaries. You can shoot destroyers. You got the 12-inch guns, so they're slightly faster firing than your big 15, 16s, and 14-inch guns. You're fast. Maybe put a bit more armour on the side because, not gonna lie, they're a bit of a glass cannon. And voila! That's what you get. The vegetable drinker seems to like questions about the Queen Elizabeth class carriers. So his question would be, what would happen in the Falklands scenario then? Would the QE wear out its own flight deck? So this was in a question to what I proposed in a live stream. So, the fact that the F-35s, when they land, they obviously put the exhaust nozzle pointing downwards towards the deck, so they remain, they have enough lift to stay in the air. When they come into land, and they're coming down, because the exhaust is so hot, and all that gas is basically being smashed into the deck, it basically superheats the deck. Hence why the flight deck is slightly thicker than what you'd think, because, well, you need to have an armoured flight deck to basically take the heat of these jets. So, in that respect, as probably some of you might know, when QE comes back from, say, for instance, Joy Warrior, or it came back from Ost, or pretty much any single time it goes to see that we have F-35s on board, there's usually a big, massive white tent that appears a couple of days to a couple of weeks after we get back. And that pretty much is there to strip the deck down, because the contractors do work inside to basically strip the deck and basically redo it. So it keeps the residual strength and you don't start melting the flight deck and, well, people don't start getting burned to a crisp in the gym. So the question is, would the QE wear its own flight deck out if it went to a Falklands scenario? Well, let's put it this way. The 6 weeks of F-35s doing Ost, the flight deck wasn't that bad. Well, some bits were slightly scorched, but, what can you expect from a, fifth generation jet that's got its exhaust pointing downwards, keeping it up in the air, and, well, not gonna lie, when you stand on the flight deck and see it at night, it basically glows red. So, I think it would be fine, to be honest. But then again, we had, 4 aircraft on board? If the ship went to war with 36 jets, well, so I'm guessing the way he's thinking about it is a fully operational QEC with F-35s and basically do some weird version of the final countdown and take it back to 1982 down the South Atlantic, and yeah. So if we're doing that, then, well, 36 jets taking off, a couple of them will be broken because, that's what happens when you do full operations with aircraft. Some of them sometimes break and they have to have defects to repair. So if you're looking at maybe 60 flights per day, maybe 60 landings for 6 weeks, that is quite a lot of landings. That's over was it? I'm just going to try and think. Bit of quick maths here. 60 times... maybe 300 odd? No, my maths is way off there. Anyway, it's in the... well, it's in a few hundred landings per day. Well, over the course of the operation. And as such, that's going to put a lot of wear and tear on the deck. So, okay, looking at it, it's 420 landings per week. Times that by 6 weeks, it's 2,520 landings overall. So, in that respect, that's a lot of scorched decks. You've got 3 spots where you can land the jets. So, you are looking at 700 odd landings per spot. So, that's going to scorch the deck. It's going to create a couple of black spots. But I think you could probably get away with it. Like, what are you meant to do on a deployment, especially if you're a strike carrier, is you normally do about maybe 3 months of operations and you go alongside for about 2 weeks and then go out for another 3 months and go back alongside and Bob's your uncle, you do some repairs. That sort of thing. You replace the deck or you repaint it with Camrex and Bob's your uncle, you're ready to go. So I think, yeah, she should be fine. It's, it's kind of technically designed for it. Although, I'm not a fan of the jet. We all know that. But it is what it is. Goes out and kills things. So yeah, it'll probably do fine. Now the question does raise is, if we're taking QE back to 1982, are we taking the Harriers? Because Harriers were operational then. And, well, if you think about it, the F-35 is, well, it's not even thought about. Then again, the QEC wasn't even thought about by that point. But, say we take QE back to 82 with Harriers, then, yes. I don't think the Argentine Air Force is going to remain, because you've got this big, massive ship with phalanx. You've got Harriers loaded to the teeth with sidewinders. Yeah, I'm not putting my chances up against the Argentine Air Force. Well, to be honest, they lost in real life, but even still, with QEC knocking around, she's got a capability to have more Harriers than both Invincible and Hermes combined. Plus, she's got better radars, but, well, the radar resolution would be better off 1046 than it was off 965, because you actually detect an aircraft low flying against the background of land. But, well, that's getting into a conversation that, well, is deserving of its own conversation and question. Corey Pritchard Stevens asks, what is your view on the Petrovalaki becoming a museum when they decommission her? Well, looking at the fact that there is hardly any nuclear-powered vessels actually been turned into a museum ship, I don't think they'd do it. Now, then again, there is Russia and, well, they're slightly weird. They do things differently, to say the least. Don't get me wrong, they would be able to do it. She's not that big. Well, she is quite big, but she isn't as big as a Nimitz or the Enterprise. And look what they're doing to the Enterprise. They're pretty much scrapping that thing for razor blades. But if you're going to do that to the Petrovalaki, I can think of a couple of places you could probably put her. One is Kronstadt. Turn a tiny bit of that dockyard into a museum for the ship. You can put her down next to the Mikhail Kutuzov, the old Sverdlov class light cruiser. Or if you really want to, you can go and stick her over in Vladivostok. It's up to you what you want to do with that one, but I I can see them doing it. But the problem is, though, how many visitors will she get? Like, she's a Kirov. Not gonna lie, I'd go and see it if I was allowed into Russia, but because I'm currently serving, that's a bad idea and I'm not allowed in. Even though there's a load of things in Russia I want to go see, like the Aurora, St. Petersburg, Moscow, that type of thing. But yeah, anyway. Well, I don't see I'm not allowed. It's probably... There's a lot of paperwork I'd probably have to fill out and, well, probably get watched. Anyway, yeah. I think they might do it. It all depends, because Petrovalecki is the youngest of the Kirovs. The question is, though, do they just decommission it and scrap it after so many years and eventually get the lighter class out? Or if they do scrap it, do they make the Admiral Nakhimov a museum ship? Because, don't get me wrong, that thing's older, but it's armed to the flipping teeth. Like, even more so than the Petrovalecki. Because of the Zircons and the Onyx and Yakont and God knows what else they're sticking on that thing. It's going to be a crazy warship when it comes out. But then again, saying that, the Petrovalecki's going to have that refit, so, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one. But, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a Kirov. You know, that's one of those things on my bucket list. I know it's a bit sad having the Kirov on my bucket list to see before I die, but even still, it's a cool looking ship, and I have a soft spot for it, but yeah, anyway. And our final question for this clear lower deck comes from Burnt Vegetables. I know there's a lot of vegetables. Someone went through the entirety of my Discord list and changed everyone's name to something vegetable. Anyway, he asks, if you could revive any of the Royal Navy's ships, which ones would it be? So, you're probably guessing HMS Hood because it's the background photo, and yes, I would bring that thing back like 100%. Any day of the week, any day of the year, I'd bring that one back because it's flipping huge. Well, it's somewhat huge. I could look at QE and go, it's alright. It's not huge. It's not massive, but it's big. Then again, Hood was slightly smaller than the QE, but even still, it's big-ish. So I bring that one back just because, well, you know, it's got that history of it's the pride of the Royal Navy. It's the largest ship in the world for about 20 years. It's just beautiful to look at. You know, it's elegant. Although I might want to have her in the refit. The refit is quite nice. And there's an inkling of me going, James, refit Hood. Refit Hood. Refit Hood better than normal Hood. So yeah, with that little voice in the back of my mind. So yeah, I'd go for Hood. I'd also bring back HMS Raglan. Many of you will not know what Raglan is. She was the third of the Abercrombie class monitors from World War I. She got sunk by the SMS Goeben and Breslau in the Battle of Imbros. There will be a special video for that at some point with Drakeneville at some point. But anyway, moving away from the placement. So I bring back Raglan after she was sunk, just because, well, she has some little bit of history and I have a personal connection to that ship. Two other ships I bring back because, well, you might as well have top 4. Actually, no, let's go top 5. So, Hood, Raglan. You're going to have Dreadnought. So, the one that, you know, kickstarted the big gun battleships. The one I've got on my wall is a model that still haven't finished yet. So, yeah, I'd have HMS Dreadnought. Just because, why not? You know, you're not going to... Why don't you just save the daddy of all big gun ships? You know, I'm pretty sure loads of people will go and have a look at, HMS Dreadnought, that is the daddy of all battleships. That's quite cool. That's number 3. Number 4, I would bring back the Warspite, because everyone likes Warspite, except for the German Kriegsmarine, especially their destroyers. Just, you know, don't take Warship in a Norwegian fjord. It's a very bad day for you. So that's number 4. Number 5. Oh, number 5. Let me think about this now. We've got Belfast. Belfast's all right. Do you know what? Let's say HMS Ark Royal, the pennant number 91. So the one that launched the strike against the Bismarck. Only reason being, it shows the first large aircraft carrier purpose-built that actually worked out the way of, you know, making sure that the ship was slightly wider on one side that didn't make it basically capsize. And, well, she's a good-looking ship. She's bloody massive, but she's a very nice-looking ship. And, yeah, that's my top 5 list of ships I would bring back from the Royal Navy. I could think of so many more ships around the entire world I'd love to bring back, but, well, that's a question for another day. So, yeah. Right, guys, before we finish the video, just want to say it's the channel admin part. So, recently I've been thinking about trying to make a modelling channel. So, basically making tanks, ships, maybe some planes, I don't know. Well, depends. And after I finish with it, if I haven't got enough room, I'd probably sell it on eBay for maybe one of you guys to actually buy it. But I've currently done a straw poll for the lads over at Discord, and they are 89.47% in favour of me creating the channel. So I'm just thinking, what do you think about it? Obviously the straw poll's still going, so if you go and vote on it, just so I can have an idea of it, I can come up with some ideas, and, well, maybe, you know, start a build. Probably, if you all want it, probably just do the the Kiev class. Always get those two mixed up. Anyway, apart from that, there's not really much channel admin, except for thank you very much for everyone who's recently joined the YouTube channel. I know some of my older videos are slightly dodgy. They have been pretty much ripped straight off my old YouTube channel, which, for everyone asking in the comment section below, it is dead. It's never coming back. Please stop asking me. It's really annoying. So, yeah. So there will be a couple of re-uploads in the near future for those videos because, well, they weren't great. So, yeah. So that's it, guys. I'm just going to stick over to the outro and leave you to it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this video informative. Don't forget to put your questions in the pinned post below, and I shall catch you very soon.